Hi everyone, and welcome back to Life at the Chocolate Factory. So as you might be able to hear, I have a bit of a cold. I've literally been sick for like a month and a half. I'm so sick of it. It's really, really tiring, but it's just been difficult for me to record my episodes. But today we had a market at the factory and I had so many people come up to me and tell me that they were listening to my podcast and that they really liked it. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I need to find the energy to start recording again. But basically just like a quick update on my on my health. I've had a fever back and forth. I've just been it's been wild. But I'm actually feeling like my energy is coming back now, but I don't want to be too quick to say that I'm fine because this has happened before that I feel like okay for like 2 days and then something new comes up. But hopefully this long period of suffering is going to end shortly. But yeah, so let's get into today's episode. So I'm going to discuss Vegan Delights and the deeper meaning behind my business and what I find really important as a business owner and what the vision really is behind Vegan Delights, because it's not just about chocolate, not for me at least. So in my previous episodes, I've gone into how Vegan Delights started, and just a quick recap. It was an accident. I never planned to start my own business, and it's just something that literally came up out of nowhere. But what made me choose this path was the fact that I knew that I wanted to contribute with change. I'd known that from a very young age. It was when I was writing my thesis that it clicked that Vegan Delights was that change. So if you want to know like the full details on how it started and how I made my first chocolate, you can go back and listen to my previous episodes. What made me choose this path in the end was the fact that I knew that I would be able to create change if I did, and I would be able to work with change practically and directly rather than theoretically. And that was the most alluring thing with, really, sorry, I'm still a bit sick, but with really investing in Vegan Delights. But obviously when I started, I felt like the business was so small and that I had so little knowledge about how to really create sustainable change that I didn't really have a plan. I knew that sustainability was key. And for me, that sustainability was environmental and it was also social. So what I knew was important was that we had to source all of our raw materials ethically. And that was like one of the key things for me. That was something I would never compromise on. I wouldn't be one of those businesses that would start with like cheap raw materials and then become sustainable. It would be sustainable from the start. I also knew that like we had to do things that were socially sustainable. One of the things, and this was difficult at first because I saw the vision that we would create jobs for people who had a difficult time to enter the job market. But obviously we didn't have a lot of money to build an entire team back then. So it was a bit hard for me to know if I would ever get there, even though I had a very strong vision of what I wanted for the business. So those things were like super important. And then I feel like the more I developed, the more ideas I got about how my business would create change. And it's been really interesting because I think this whole venture is like a part of what has triggered, my journey of growth, my journey into spirituality and into personal development. And the more I've gotten into that, the more I've realized like what I want to do to create change. So when I started healing my inner child, I just realized that like a big part of my business was also magic and, everything that's beyond what we see. But when we reach a certain point or when we connect with a part of ourselves, we get to see that magic. And I wanted Vegan Delights to be the magic. And so these things are things that I've carried with me since the very beginning. And obviously, like, something that's also been super important is not harming any animals in the process. Like, that was the number one thing. That was the first thing I knew I had to have in my company. So I had all of these things with me, and I had no money. My company was super small. So I was like, how am I even going to create the change that I want to create? But I also, the further I got into the journey, the more I realized that I was creating change with every step that I was taking. From the very beginning, my business was going in the right direction. We were never compromising on our values and on the essence of the business, because our values really are the essence. And what was interesting was that, I also talk about this in my previous episodes, but when I connected with my investor, I was really worried, because I was worried that someone was coming into the company, and I was like, what if they don't have the same vision? What if he doesn't have the same values that I have? And what's becoming more and more clear, and what was clear from the very beginning, was that this is someone who clearly has the same values and the same vision. And it's so beautiful that you connect with the right people at the right time if you just trust, and if you walk down a path that is for the greater good, basically. And I've had so many roadblocks, and it's been a difficult journey, but I still feel like I've really aligned with what has been best for both the company, me, and the rest of the world. So those are things that have been super important to me. And the way that we've done that is, and I'm still working on this, I'm trying to build a team with people who have had a difficult time entering the job market, but who are real superstars. They have so much to give. And it's incredible when you actually see those sides of them. My employees are the most amazing people ever. They're just such incredible people, and they are so diverse, and they're so unique in their own ways. Our team they're so diverse. We have people speaking Russian, Ukrainian, sign language, and it's so cool. Now I'm actually learning sign language, which I should have done much earlier in my life, because we have people who are deaf and hearing impaired in my family. But it's just so cool to see all these different people communicating in different ways with each other. It's beautiful for me to see now that I actually have a bigger team, that what I saw in the very beginning actually happened. But what I'm learning more and more as I'm growing as a leader is also that you need to have a work environment that's really healthy for your employees. And I'm saying this, and you might be like, yes, well, of course you do, but I don't think a lot of work environments are good. And I say that from experience, but I also say that because I have so many friends who are working in places that are just extremely toxic. And I don't understand how entrepreneurs or how managers can treat their employees in that way. When I hear about it, I'm like, how is this even possible? And that's not just that happens in Sweden, in large companies, in small companies. I just hear about how people are treated and how the environments just feel really off. And I spend 8 hours or more of my days at Vegan Delights. It's a second home. It's my first home, really. I spend 2 hours at my apartment. And so does my team. They spend most of their time, most of their day at work. Then that work environment has to be really cozy and nice, because otherwise people aren't you're not going to get the best side out of people. They're not going to feel comfortable. They're not going to become loyal. They're not going to want to stay. They're going to want to leave. They're always going to have their mind somewhere else. And you don't want that. I don't want that. I know that I want to go to work and have a safe place. I think a lot of people don't understand that, but that has really been essential to me. So what we have at Vegan Delights now, for example, is that we have lunch where everyone brings their own ingredients, and then we actually make the lunch there and eat it. Everyone eats together, and we have this long table of food, and it's super cool. And we also one of the things that are important to me, I'm a creative. I love creating, and I've developed all of the recipes except the salty chili bar, which was one of my employees. She came up with that one. But I find it so important that my employees get to express themselves creatively because they're super creative people as well. And I believe that they can contribute with as much good as I can contribute with. So if they tell me, let's test a recipe or let's try out a new design, I'm like, yes, let's do that. That's the beauty of it. And I want to hear what they have to say. I want to learn from them because I know that I'm no longer in production 8 hours a day. So if they're seeing something that I'm not seeing, or if they have an idea that I haven't had, that idea is just as valuable as my ideas, or even more valuable than some of my ideas, you know? And I think that's really important. And I think that like the way you lead people is also super important. You can't just go in and bulldoze. And sometimes you need to bulldoze. I'm not saying you don't. I go into different modes depending on what we have to do. And sometimes you really need to step up and be like, guys, just listen to me and walk this way. Okay, I will show you the way and just follow. But most of the times I have more of a give and take. Like that's how I would act like in a crisis where people are confused and don't know what to do. Most of the times I go in and I'm like, okay, so what do you guys think we should do? Tell me more. Like, what knowledge are you sitting on that I don't have? I need to learn some things too. And there's no point in, freaking out if someone does something wrong or starting to bully someone because they're not doing things right. Like, you can't do stuff like that. And I think that's like the key. It was a bit messy. I don't know if I was like clear in everything that I'm trying to say here because it's really difficult for me to articulate what I actually mean about this. There's so much going on in my head. But I just think it's so important as a leader to have that openness to you. But there's also times when people come into your team, people that don't fit in. And that's happened to me. It's really easy to get clouded in times like that because you spend so much time with that person and you feel like you see a lot of their good sides, but you don't really see that they're seeping bad energy into the rest of the team. And I actually recently had a situation where the values of someone at the factory really, really didn't align with the rest of the team. And it was so difficult for me to, because this person was a really good worker and I cannot say that like they were not good at their job because they were really good at what they were doing. But their values were just not aligning with the bigger picture and it was really affecting everyone and it was affecting the dynamics of the team. And I had to make the difficult decision to let someone go for the first time in my entire life. And it was done correctly. We have union agreements and everything. But it was really hard. It is hard. And it's a decision that I think it may have been the most difficult decision that I've made in my entire life up until now. But I knew I had to do it because I knew that as a leader, I needed to lead with what our core values were. Even if that means it's going to be really, really hard short term, I know that it's going to be better long term for my team. I love my team. They're my family. I love each and every one of my employees so much. They are such amazing people. Like, I get emotional when I speak about them because I don't know how I got so lucky to align with these people. And if there's something that's like threatening them or threatening their well-being, that thing cannot exist in the factory. And even if that means that my business won't be efficient short term, that we're going to have gaps in efficiency or that we're going to have delays, then so be it. Because I know that long term, we need to keep this healthy environment at the workplace. So that's something that I've really been like deep diving into lately. And it's been so hard. Like, trust me, it's been so hard. The past few weeks, I've just felt like I'm in this, I'm physically sick as well. And I'm just like, there's so much happening and there's so many difficult decisions that have to be made. But I know that Vegan Delights isn't just about chocolate. It's not just a business. It's about so much more. It's a vision of a better world. And that vision of a better world comes with responsibility. It comes with action that needs to be taken to ensure that the standards live up to the standards of that vision, that we are better that we are good, that we're good to every single person, to every single animal, that we are good, that we don't have shady things going on in our organization. It's so much bigger than just having a business and making money. It's about building something sustainable that's good for the planet, that's good for people, that's good for animals, that I can stand by. And I know that this path is so much more difficult than bulldozing and just making a lot of money, because that's something that can be done by making people's lives miserable, by taking advantage of other living creatures, by taking advantage of our planet. And it can be so easy to make money that way, but I will never do that. I know that as an entrepreneur, I have a responsibility to contribute to a better world, and I will do that, even if that's a much more difficult path for me to take, even if that short term means suffering. So yeah, that's like, to me, that's extremely important. And I do think that there are so many businesses that feel that way too. But I also think there are too many businesses that don't act in a way that is just towards the universe, basically. And I would never be able to make money that way. So yeah, that was an intense episode, but that's how I feel about things. And I don't really have much else to say. If there's anything specific that you would want me to go into in an episode, let me know. I would love to do it. And I think that in the next episode, I'm going to talk about the really dark times, doubt, fear, because I've gone through so much doubt and fear and so many difficult periods during this journey. And I'm going to talk about how I got through them, because most of them felt impossible to get through. So I hope that you will come in and listen to my next episode. But now I'm gonna go chill. It's Saturday. I've had my market all day. I'm gonna go play with my 2 dogs and eat Chinese cucumber salad. I have an obsession with it. Yeah, that's it. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.